Hey everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George Affleck.
And it's time for
UnSpun on the road.
I got a text from George this morning that said it's 38 degrees here. And then I sent a screen cap of Vancouver weather at that moment, 3 degrees.
I apologize.
No, you don't.
No, I don't.
No, nice question mark there, bud. Nice question mark. Hey, we got a lot of question marks. Good segue.
Yeah.
In the BC Legislature. Wow. Okay, where to begin here?
Quite a week.
Let's backstory a little bit. Almost a year in now. It was November 20th last year. We talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
That Craig James and Gary Lenz, the clerk and the sergeant at arms of the BC Legislature, were perp walked out of the building. Speaker Daryl Plekas then told us all that we were going to throw up when we heard what was happening. And maybe he thought we were going to throw up because we drank too much. I don't know. But we got the Auditor General, Beverly McLaughlin's report.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, yeah, we need to sort of sort some of these things out, procedures and expenses and whatnot in the BC Legislature. Newsflash. And then this new report, 112 pages, George, and I want to say I enjoyed reading every single word, but wow. Can you break down what this new tome shared?
Yeah, I was also very surprised. I mean, some of it was surprising. First of all, it's interesting, and it's the backlash that's coming on it is that it's a report that came from the speaker's request. So there's a perception of bias already out there, and so it's not being taken seriously by some people, but also it got a lot of headlines and got a lot of chatter. But the fact that it was almost entirely based on this purchase or given away of booze that in 2013 that seemed to go on this drama. I just kept reading and going, what a bizarro, childish, ridiculous place.
Soap opera. That's what I kept thinking. Am I watching The Young and the Restless? Is this as the ledge turns?
Yeah.
Because I kept waiting for the next item. And it was just about the fact that a pickup truck was filled with boxes of booze that were left over from some event.
Carried out through a window or something like that.
What was that? But the assumption was that this alcohol was being returned so that cash would be put back into the coffers, I guess.
That's what one person said. I mean, that's a thing. I mean, you got Gary Lenz saying this. It seemed like he was throwing James under a bus, but James was complicit in some things. You're like, what is going on here? This story is so bizarre.
Did that surprise you, George? Because it kind of looked like those two guys and everybody who spoke to the speaker and the sergeant at arms, the clerk and the sergeant at arms, they looked like they were a tight pair that internally
appears,
and then you read that and you're like oh my god,
I know, totally killing him in the background. I mean, he was either covering his ass, we don't know, because obviously this is one report and it seems to go against what McLaughlin's report had. Hers wasn't as hard hitting. It seemed to actually support these guys, especially more favorable to Lenz. This report completely slams Lenz, so almost the exact opposite on his front. And
called him a liar.
Called him a liar. And now this guy, which we've always talked about, is the liability for the province, the potential slander. I've always worried that's going up because this has been such a public, the perp walk, all this stuff. Like, it's just been such a weird public display of such silliness. And God knows what the truth is anymore. And so I would say that I still argue that there's a case for slander on many fronts here. And it's just that it keeps on going. We have one more report to come. We're still waiting for the RCMP report. So if that corroborates, it goes along with which report, McLaughlin's report or Lenz's report or this report from Lepard, who was.
I feel like this is money and this is a lighter in this whole affair.
100%.
And a couple of things that really struck me is the fact that you just brought up the fact this all relates to something that happened 6 years ago. 6 years ago. And the Premier has a piece in this. And I remember after the perp walk and Premier John Horgan very much in the glow of being that guy that's transparent. He's talking to you. He's mano a mano. And he had said, I have no idea what this is about. Yeah, you
Yeah,
do.
yeah,
Yeah, you
he
do.
did. He
Yeah.
apparently did. There was
Yeah.
meetings, and now
There
that's
were
the second
meetings,
part of the story. So that's
shredding.
shredding of documents. I mean, but you know, it's interesting. So the Liberals have come out strong against. This is Jeff Meggs, who's chief of staff, who they is part of the report. They had talked to him, I guess, and maybe you read the whole report
He's
from
witness
page to
10.
page.
Witness 10.
It's 10, right?
Yeah.
And so there, the Liberals sent out a press release saying how horrible this was for him to be shredding documents. And then Jeff Meggs, chief of staff, who I've worked with for 6 years when he was on council, know very well. He's a very calm, cool, and collected guy. He doesn't get in a rage very. You know, sometimes I've seen the dark side of Jeff, but generally he's pretty calm, cool, and collected. Even keeled kind of guy. Scandal doesn't really. He's like, it's whatever. Just it rolls off his back kind of
That's
thing.
right. Wait it out, guys.
Yeah, and sometimes it's been a little bit pointed towards him, others. But in this case, so he sends out a press release himself saying, these were documents that were just photocopies. I could access them anytime I wanted to. They were available to me. Why would I want to keep them? Is kind of his point. And so now the debate is whether that was legitimate,
appropriate.
Yeah. And I know that for me, when I was in office, I kept very little documents. I mean, when somebody would come with a bunch of stuff, I'd say, unless there's something in here that's going to help me, can you just email it to me so I have a record of it? Or I really don't want all this paperwork. And in fact, in camera documents in city council, anyways, where you have in-camera meetings, we're required to shred the documents. We actually leave them. You're not allowed to take this stuff out of the in-camera meetings because of security, and so you are forced to shred them. I've lost your image there. There, you're back.
Hi, sorry.
Disappeared for a second there. So
I was taking an incoming call. I declined it. I'm very popular, George. I'm very popular. Yes. But what you were saying about in-camera meeting documents, I can understand. Like, you're not allowed to talk about that. Somebody's got it on a record somewhere. Mm-hmm. You got to take what you have and you shred it. And when I was reading the report, what I assumed within it, and I'm certainly no lawyer and I'm not an expert, when it got to the shredding part, mm-hmm. it was very clearly stated that those documents were shredded after it was reported to police, because the Premier's office, everybody agreed when they found out about the details behind this. This is not a legislative matter. This is a matter for the authorities. Report it to the police, make sure that they have all the information. They made sure those documents were pushed across the table to authorities, and then the copies that they had, they destroyed, because right. It is not, you don't want any of that disseminated. Like, I kind of get it.
Yeah, that's kind of what the Premier's, this morning he had a press conference. That's kind of what he was talking about. He's like, it's not our duty. This is a legislative, this is a bipartisan, tripartisan group of people that are on this committee. I'm not on that committee. It's not the right. Premier's office
So
role.
Is that spin? Are we to unspin that, or is that actually unspun?
They've done a good job at basically unspinning what the Liberals tried to use as a smoking gun. Right. And I don't think it's resonating. I think there's, I get the Liberals' attempt, and I get, nobody likes to see the word shredding documents, right. But the fact that he said that he did it and admitted to it, but here's why, kind of, you go, oh, damn.
For me, I overwhelmingly 112 pages in thought, are we still buying booze at the office? Like, is this Mad Men era? Is the ledge so stuck in the olden days? Literally, like we just got to a point where we can wear what we want in terms of halter or tank top type business attire for women. Like, okay, everybody, let's take one giant step into 2019 and stop having very expensive scotch stocked on the taxpayer's dime in your office. That was last year's news, right? And now we're talking about truckloads of booze.
I know.
I want to know how much was in there. I want to know how much it costs. And I want that, the issue to not necessarily be about the truck, but about how Gary Lenz and Craig James manipulated things within expenses to take paid by taxpayer vacations and then claim that they took no vacation and got a payout on vacation time to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. That, to me, will make me throw up a little. The fact that we're focusing on a truck full of booze kind of makes me go, and a desk and a chair. Okay.
But the
let's move
booze
on.
thing is like, yeah, see, it's 1940, see, we're going to take some
Right?
booze. I got my scotch here, see? Well, sure. I mean,
Oh
it's
my God, that's
ridiculous.
funny, George. That's funny.
Or like for those of us who are old enough, Lou Grant on the
Yep.
Maritime Morning Show,
Bottom drawer.
bottom drawer pulls out the scotch at the end of the day, which even journalism is known for the booze that used, but that kind of stuff ended in the 70s.
Oh no, you'll be fired now. You'd be
You don't
fired
keep
now. If you came
booze
back
in.
from a martini lunch and went on the air, you're fired.
Well, first of all, I have a nap, and then
True.
'cause I don't
We're
know.
old.
I'm not sure how people did that back in the day, but that whole thing, like, why is there all this alcohol at the legislature? It's so weird.
Let's make it stop. How do we make that stop?
I don't know.
We
It
make it
seems
a
to be
thing. We
simple
make it a headline.
policy. Yeah.
Talk about it on UnSpun.
Yeah.
Copy in the people at John Horgan, at Daryl Plecas. Because really, I feel that while some of this vindicates Plecas for being angered at what didn't get taken care of between 2013 and 2018, because I believe that's why he was so pissed. And the Mullen piece, I don't really understand because he's very involved in all of this and the interviews and such. But really, at the root of this and at the heart of this is misappropriation of taxpayer funds for anything. And the books need to be open. There needs to be freedom of information, access to all of it. And that's not the case right now. And I think we're learning that by these stories coming to the forefront.
And
I think that's important.
Yeah. And speaking of honest and open government, late on Friday night, a press release went out, which is so cynical to send
and classic.
Classic, because as a person working in media, the stuff that gets sent on a Friday night is the chance that that's going to be covered the way it would get covered. It's total bury it.
It's a deep six.
So this is the Ginny Simms stuff, right?
Yeah.
So you want to kind of jump in there?
Yeah, well, I mean, she kind of said, I'm not going anywhere. And then she realized, oh, yeah.
There's some stuff going on that doesn't look right. So she's resigned from the cabinet and the caucus, and which she's still in the legislature.
Give the details.
I mean, there's some stuff that was going on related to some paperwork. I mean, it's no need to get into it, but basically there's some stuff that happened that looked pretty shifty, and that's being investigated. So she's under
using her influence, right? Using her position.
There is this allegations of her using her influence, and so there's an investigation going on. And so this, if you remember, Ben Stewart from Kelowna, he had some issues related to election finance stuff, and so he immediately stepped down. A Liberal MLA stepped down from the caucus, stepped out of the cabinet, all that stuff. He just got reinstated, I think, 2 weeks ago. They found there was nothing cleared of all potential charges or whatever they call it regarding finance allegations.
Yeah.
So he's back in the cabinet now. Of course, we all know he would never have voted against the Liberals, so it wasn't like he's out of the cabinet, but he's still in office. And so the same goes for Ginny Simms. It's not like she can't vote with the NDP on any fringe. Of course she's going to, but she loses her cabinet post. She loses her all her stuff. Actually, I ran into Ben Stewart at UBCM, and he gave me his card, and I'd forgotten that he was had been pushed out of the cabinet because of the issue. And it was funny. I looked at his card and I was like, what is this? It was just like a blank card, his name,
just his name,
number. I'm like, all right, thanks. And then I realized, oh yeah, of course, he can't have any association with government or a party at all.
Soon rejoining the ranks of just regular folk, Andrew Weaver.
Yeah, that was also that came out Monday morning, and there were a lot of rumors about what it would be. What I thought was interesting, so he's resigning he's going to be not only resigning as leader, but leaving the job entirely after the next election, which was, I think that was a surprise. What was interesting was I saw Keith Baldry commenting on Twitter, buddy, we asked you that you basically lied to us. You lied. Said, that's not what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
He should have just not answered any media's questions. That's generally, you have to wait and
or
see.
Say,
you have to wait and
that's
see.
Right. I will be telling you my future, or I will update on that in the coming days. And I don't really get that. And Keith has been covering Andrew Weaver for a very long time and deserves better, frankly. When having that established, like just say, me again, take another phone call. Sorry.
At least your number doesn't come
usually
up.
Calls me during this time. True. Okay, so Andrew Weaver It'll be interesting to see who takes over provincially for the Greens. But staying with the Greens, I was talking to Keith Baldry I was filling in for Charles Adler last night, and he said that there's some real buzz around the Green Party on southern Vancouver Island, because the polling is showing that the Greens are surging, and both the NDP and the Liberals have acknowledged that all of their polling is showing this. So now it appears that there will be a significant NDP pushback. And as you've often said in politics, when something like this happens, when there is a surge, incoming attack, and it looks like the NDP, who typically have been not doing the attack ad thing, are going to go after Elizabeth May hard on how allegedly the Green Party is aligned somehow with the Conservatives.
Yeah. And I think and it's funny, I think the federal Liberals are also going after the Greens in that area too, because they really worry about the Greens in BC, the Greens in general, and they also worry about Quebec and NDP. That they hopefully, for them, they're going, well, if NDP fail in Quebec, it'll be to their benefit, to the Liberal, but in Vancouver Island, it'll be to the Greens' benefit. And then they're wondering, well, who holds the balance of power? Like, if we get a minority government, would we rather work with a Liberal or with the NDP or with the Greens? And it's what's funny is this negative, this stuff that's being pushed out on the island is about how the Greens are conservative in some way in green clothing. I find this. I'm pretty sure I've talked about this before, because I talked about my mom used to vote.
Yes.
Voted Greens, and she was a lifelong conservative. And then, her last couple of elections, she voted Green. I'm like, what are you doing? Well, they care about the environment, but they're very, they're fiscally conservative. And I can tell you without a doubt that is not true. I don't know where this perception that the Green Party has some kind of conservative roots, but it seems to be perpetuating itself all the time, and it's being used now as part of a campaign to not help them not win. Because I look at them provincially here, and they're obviously aligned with the NDP, who are spending money like crazy, have supported all their tax increases and everything like that. Certainly in Vancouver, my experience with Adrian Carr and the current got Greens on there, they vote in favor of the budget. See some massive. I mean, Adrian voted against the first one that when we got in 2012 because there was no transparency, but then she voted for every budget after that for 6 more years. So massive increase in budgets. And so my experience with the Green Party is they are, sure, the green stuff and environment, I get it, but the fiscally, they are not conservative. I can't think of what is conservative except
I've got it for you.
They're older people. Most of them, a lot of them, I don't know what is it.
2 things that Keith said, because I was similarly confused. But during the debate on Monday, which we'll get to in a second on a larger sort of topic, but Elizabeth May speaking about how some Green Party members were pro-life, and how she and Christy Clark actually put a Facebook post up yesterday about that, saying, what's the big deal? There are lots of differing opinions in parties on many topics, but abortion is an issue that really is one of those things that, as Keith put on Adler's show, nobody wants to touch, because it's just an explosive topic that, and we shouldn't even debate it here, but that's one of the things that appears to align with the Conservatives, in that Andrew Scheer has stated personally for him, he is pro-life. However, he promises, air quotes, to not reopen the issue if elected prime minister. So that was one little piece. And the other thing that Keith said is that Elizabeth May's riding is the wealthiest, one of, if not the wealthiest riding in Canada.
Yeah, it's a bunch of my mom wasn't wealthy, but there are a lot of people, older English people. My mom was
really?
Welsh, but it seems like if you think about those ridings, they're very British in a lot of the ways, I find.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting perception of that, but I still don't know. I think that this anti-abortion and abortion and pro-life thing is definitely complicated, but liberals are using that to show how they're progressive, right? They're trying to
definitely, as they should, as a key to sort of twist things in the conversation for Canadians, because with what's happening in the United States right now, there are a lot of voters who are like, tell me that you're not coming to tell me what to do with my body. And I'm way past the point. I got tumbleweeds rolling through my ovaries. So this doesn't affect me personally, but for the next generation, I want access to, you know, to planned pregnancy or women's health care to a level of, it's up to you for everybody. And that's as deep as I'll go into the argument on it. But I know there's a great piece of the voting public who any mention of pro-life is a tweak. It's a tweak. It's a good point for the Liberals, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, it's wedge issue in politics. It's all about find those wedge issues. So Doug Ford is a wedge issue for the Liberals.
Way to go.
Using that as a wedge into the 905 area in Toronto. How do we?
Because people hate him.
Well, many parts of Ontario, they love him, but those aren't parts that the Liberals have a chance in. So
right. So Andrew Scheer is not mentioning, right, and he is Andrew Scheer, Conservative Party leader. Andrew Scheer is not mentioning Doug Ford, and I think Justin Trudeau mentioned Doug Ford at that debate. I don't know, 75 times.
Oh my God, there's been so many advertisements. They've really focused. Yeah. We don't see a lot of them that are because they're in Ontario based. Doug Ford has been fairly quiet, as we predicted on the show, that they would ask him, you know, the Conservatives would say, Dougie, hey, just stay over there. Just quiet down.
But then the Conservatives on the attack on Justin Trudeau. I mean, I was watching Twitter the other day, and there was this, like, there's a story coming in the Globe and Mail tomorrow. I think it was Warren Kinsella was like, my spidey senses are tingling. And I'm like, what's this? And it's, you know, rumor and innuendo started flying. It's about West Point Grey Academy and why he left and da-da-da. And it was more and more and more. And then there's nothing in the Globe. And the Toronto Star's actually done a fairly in-depth investigation into what might have been, because it was alleged that Justin Trudeau used legal means to stop the story, which is completely false in any fact checking that has been done to this point. But it's people just seeing the headline, just seeing the thing move on Twitter. They don't hear the, no, that's not true. It's that, are we going there in Canadian politics? So, you know, you can just say a bunch of things that are not true to get your base all jazzed. Oh,
in the last city election, they tried something came out on Facebook and about Ken Simms, who was running for mayor of Vancouver. That was completely false, but that rumor started. There was also rumors about Gregor that I was constantly people were saying, "Oh, I heard Gregor." And you're like, no,
no, he's the opposite of that. Actually,
it's the opposite. And so I don't like Gregor, but that's so not the true.
Right.
But it continued to. People would come up to me and say, "Oh," you're like, "Oh my God, where did this come from?" And it's a very effective approach.
I love the fact that you're not even mentioning those rumors. That is class, George Affleck. May I just say, because you could have said there was this that was said about Gregor, and there was this that was said about Ken Sim, and there was this that was said about Justin Trudeau. You know what? Don't talk about the BS, because what we really need to do is focus on the things that matter. And I liked that in the debate about Jagmeet Singh. Because while he was like, you can go with Mr. Delay or... Oh my God.
Mr. Delay or Mr. Amanda, Mr. Delay or Mr. Deliver.
Mr. Deny or Mr. Delay.
He should have added, I'm going to be Mr. Deliver. That's what he should have said. Then we were at 3D.
Oh, George.
No. Who wrote
That's the line. You got to, let's tell Amanda we need to copy and Jagmeet Singh on this, because that's his ad.
Yeah.
But seriously, like the zingers that happened in that debate and the crosstalk, what did you think about the formatting for it, now that you've done some TV?
Yeah. You know, I was listening to it on the radio because I was in between meetings. And so I was driving around at this meeting and listening to it. And it was very, very challenging, especially at the beginning, because it was just chaos at the beginning of it. There was didn't seem to be any control. You had the PC party guy, the leader, Bernier,
Maxime Bernier,
just jumping in, just dominating in a really obnoxious way from my audio. And there didn't seem to be any control. And in general, it was just too many. I mean, you're looking at literally soundbite moments that's the attempt for each of them, because there's so little time for all those people and all those interviewers, people asking questions. It was just like a mess to listen to. And my 18-year-old son was in the car, and he was like listening, going, "What is going on?" And I had to kind of
explain. We call it crosstalk. You know? We call it crosstalk, and I just did it to you when you're like, I'm trying to explain, and I say we call it crosstalk. When we do that, and I'm definitely guilty of doing that when I get all excited and I want to like jump in on you. I see it when I watch the podcast back to make sure that we put the right edition up. No, I'm kidding. one take wonders, George and I. But the crosstalk is so annoying, particularly when listening on radio. But it is also really something that broadcasters try to avoid on television and radio, thus having a moderator. And I felt like while some of the moderators who had, I'm just going to throw out there, maybe a bit more experience in trying to say, excuse me, your time is up, and moving on to the next thing, it really got out of hand. And nobody heard anything, learned anything. And 45 seconds per answer, it takes politicians 45 seconds to exhale. So there.
Although I found, I thought actually Jagmeet Singh, he for sure won. As a listener, I was going, this guy's kicking butt. Partly because he got his 45 seconds. He actually did really good. And, it's not easy, as you say, a politician, but even in general, to say what you want and get all of it in 45 seconds. That's not easy. And he did a really good job calmly. I think someone, I think it's Patrick who works with us, commented about, that he must have been given up on his listening to all his communications people, and it's just focused on
giving him the notes.
It's like, you know what,
I got this.
I'm just gonna be myself. And that's how you become authentic. Be yourself. What a concept. Be
yourself.
It's really tough.
We're up against the clock, bud. We're up against the clock.
In politics, it's really tough to not take all this advice and just go and get confused.
It is, because us media trainer types will tell you what you stay on message. And it's like, or just know your message and communicate it. Be a communicator. Rob Vagramoff, got to touch on Port Moody. We talked a little bit about Port Moody when it came to bylaws and zoning last week. And this week, it was an absolute debacle in Port Moody City Council, as the mayor has returned, even though the case against him, the case of sexual assault charges, remain.
Yeah, and he's leveraged the rules, that procedural rules that exist, that it's not required for him to step down. He said, I don't have to. I'm not being charged. I'm not convicted. I'm innocent until proven guilty. And that's what some of the speakers who came to. There was a motion put forward by one of the councillors to say, get out of here, buddy.
Even if that motion passed, he wouldn't have to leave. There's zero mechanism to get somebody out.
Yeah, it's just common sense, Rob.
Yeah.
And in that vote, it was the guys versus the women. It's like, oh, no.
I watched it. I found it horrible to watch.
Just bad form on so many levels, and the dude should just
step back
away and just get that shit taken care of. Whatever.
There you go.
Or
My column. We're going to the middle. A little bit ranty, because I really feel strongly. We've talked about this with 420. It happened to me. I was going to actually, Carrie Marshall, longtime radio great, passed away rather suddenly, melanoma. It was very, very fast. And we were headed to his celebration of life. A group of us were getting together. I offered to help carpool some people to the location downtown. And I was trying to navigate the pickup at the C bus. And I pulled over for a second to take a call into a commercial zone at 3 o'clock on a Sunday. Yes, it's a no stopping zone. Yes, it is a commercial zone. It's 3 o'clock on a Sunday. You could have parked a semi behind me. I look up, there's a bylaw officer writing me a ticket. So I was like, okay, really? You can read all about it in the column, but what it made me think of is there are Extinction Rebellion people closing down the Burrard Street Bridge. There's no stopping there either.
And 420.
No bylaws.
No tickets, no bylaws. You're breaking all these bylaws. Just so you know, parking, and I'm trying to do the math. I think it's about $13 million they get in parking tickets a year in Vancouver, approximately. Parking alone makes $50 to $60 million a year for the city. It's a big revenue source for the city. So they rely on it. It's a moneymaker as far as the staff ratio numbers. So it's way cheaper and very, very profitable to send as many staff out giving out tickets, as opposed to having staff go out and police and deal with 420 or deal with people on the bridge or deal with so you get in that ticket, it's money in the bank, and
it's a picture of my license. It's a picture of my license plate, and that's it.
Disputing it. You have no
disputing
chance.
it.
You can't win that battle, and because it's computerized. You go into the city hall, there's no people. If you dispute it, they show you the thing, and it's on a thing. Here's the picture. Was that you, or was that not you? Yeah, that was me. Well, then you're guilty. That's about it. So it's no
makes
arguing.
Me crazy. But the people smoking at Sunset Beach, breaking a clear bylaw, which apparently the fine can be as high as $5,000, not the $60 of my ticket. Imagine the $5,000 times that many people at Sunset Beach and the revenue from that. Anyway,
or
it's not going
don't
to
get me
happen.
started. I know you're a dog owner, but you know, dogs pooping in playgrounds.
Yep.
Or on the sidewalk. I never see somebody get fined for that. Where are the fines? Because that's too complicated. It's too much work. It takes too much staff initiative as far as getting out there and being everywhere. It's like, you know, meanwhile, we've got Oppenheimer Park filled up. So is that the time? Is that a call?
Timer's done, buddy.
We did it.
Had UnSpun podcast at the Orca, BC. Go to the orca.ca to read my column, and definitely give us a follow on Twitter. And it's George
_
Affleck at Jody Vance. Buddy, go enjoy the pool. I won't say where you are, but it's 38 degrees, and I love you and I hate you at the same time, but you're going to do the same in a couple of weeks, because we are unspun on the road for the next couple of weeks. Thanks for hooking us up, George.
Thanks. Bye.